College Park, Maryland, where the Terps' run of 3 straight winning seasons came to a halt a year ago, and now they look to bounce back from that disappointment. With new coordinators on both sides of the ball and an overhauled roster, Maryland enters the season with plenty of unknowns. We will look to get some answers over the next hour as we go in depth with the Terrapins on our Maryland football training camp special now. The dawn of a new season for the Maryland Terrapins, looking to get things back on track this season after a down year a season ago. That after 3 really good years prior to that. Maryland football hoping to return to that course this year. Dave Revsine alongside Jake Butt and Gerry DiNardo. There is some news regarding the Terps. It's not great news. Maryland informing us that Malik Washington is going to be limited in practice today. The outstanding, highly recruited freshman quarterback battling a lower leg injury. They did say, however, that they expect to have him back soon. It does change a little bit of what we can get out of this practice, though, Jake.
The quarterback battle is always a headline. Again, this is one day, no long-term concerns. But I do feel confident, just because that's who Coach Locksley is, that the quarterback, whoever it is, will be able to lead a dynamic passing game. That's the standard here. But Locksley was open to us at Big Ten Media Days. He felt he lost the locker room. Well, we're early in camp, a young roster, expect some urgency out of the players, and I felt as a player, anytime there was new coaches, I had an additional level of excitement to go try to prove myself. You can close your eyes and hear good football, Coach. I want to hear good competition today.
Yeah, and Malik was in spring practice, so obviously he's had all that work up until this point. But I think this is a start-over year for Mike Locksley and Maryland. You go back to 2022, 2023. They win 8 games. They win 2 bowl games. Do you remember 2023? They were 5-0. And everybody was talking, they're going to challenge the upper half of the Big Ten. And ever since that, they lose 4 games straight when they were supposed to be challenging the best teams in the conference. So I don't think this is about X's and O's. Mike Locksley's an established X and O guy. They've got a good staff. They had a lot of guys drafted in the NFL. They recruit well, so it's not about talent. So my point is this, Jake. I want to see energy. I want to see togetherness. I want to see a team that's hungry. I don't think it has anything to do with X's and O's. This is all going to be about getting the locker room back and what kind of team you have emotionally. It's not going to be about the X's and O's.
That's what fall camp is for, too, Coach. It's supposed to be hard. It's hot out here, mid-80s. You know, as a head coach for Coach Locksley, you want to challenge your players where that voice in your head, that fork in the road says, man, maybe I could take a rep off. Condition these players mentally so they are prepared to perform at a high level come October, come November.
And there are a ton of new faces, as you guys said. I mean, they only have 113 returning power conference starts from last year. That's 21 fewer than anyone else in the Big Ten. You mentioned the new coordinators as well, Gerry. Part of the challenge, it seems to me, of this staff is getting everyone on the same page.
Yeah, it was interesting. Mike Locksley at Media Days in Vegas said, we're going to keep the same terminology. He's been with Pep Hamilton back in his Michigan days. So, they've got a staff that can make transitions pretty quickly. But Locks has been here long enough. He knows what he wants on both sides of the ball.
One thing for Pep Hamilton, too, again, going back to the original point here, is Maryland, they recruit and develop wide receivers. They're going to have a dynamic passing attack. One thing about Pep Hamilton is he has a history of developing dynamic rushing attacks, too. So I think the trench play has been lacking here for Maryland. I want to see competition in the trenches.
Agree with you. I think that's been an ongoing theme the entire time they've been in the league, Gerry, is getting the offensive line where they need it to be.
Yeah, no doubt. And they look like they were making a little progress. But today, we have to see an energized team today. I mean, today's an important day in the big scheme of things because I think you get a feel for the attitude of this team. And when you won 1 conference game a year ago and you had the success that you mentioned before last year, you got to get it back. But it's not X's and O's. It's morale. It's the spirit of the team.
Well, this is a program that's had incredible success in non-conference play. You look back over the last 4 years, including bowls, the only team in the FBS that has not lost a game outside of conference. The challenge, to your point, Gerry, has been when Big Ten play begins. The Terps entering year 7 under Mike Locksley, an era that's been defined largely by high-powered offenses. But that just wasn't the case a year ago. You see some of the statistical declines, including scoring down more than 5 points per game as compared to the prior 3 seasons, were held under 20 points in each of their last 4 games. Leading to a coordinator change, Josh Gaddis out, replaced by Pep Hamilton, who is with Jake and Jerry.
All right, Coach, let's start with your quarterbacks. I know Malik was limited in practice today, but just a week into camp now, what's your evaluation of that position group?
Well, they've all been working hard to just really work towards mastery of managing the offense. I'm just talking pre-snap. I think in years past, especially with Justin and Malik, they've been in systems in which the communication, a lot of it came from the sideline. And now that we're integrating a bit of being able to call plays in the huddle along with the traditional Maryland offense, what Coach Fox has done over the years, and that's continue the up-tempo style of play where we can just call plays at a rapid pace.
You and Coach Locks have been together a long time. You're good friends. How does the game planning and the game day play calling going to unfold?
Well, it all starts with the head coach. There's no question that Coach Locks has been an accomplished offensive coordinator over the years, and since he's been here at Maryland, they've had one of the best passing attacks, one of the more consistent passing offenses in college football, and specifically the Big Ten. So, I'm just hoping that myself and some of the new guys on the staff, Hal Hunter, Gerard, James, they both came with me from the Houston Texans, and Ted White, that we're going to have the opportunity to take what Coach has always done in his traditional spread sets and add a bit of toughness and physicality to it.
Unique distinction of your offense, a lot of shifts, motions. It's beautiful to see. Two-part question. One, with Malik being a young guy, how has he grasped the command of that part of the offense? And two, why do you implement the shifts and the motions? What does it allow your offense to do?
Well, first off, Malik, he's been here since January, so he came in early. As well as, Justin Martin, he came in mid-year, came in from UCLA, and Christian Martin was already on campus. My son Jackson also came in mid-year. So we've had a lot of time to really just orientate our guys to being able to call plays from the huddle, being able to call it at the line of scrimmage, being able to manage the shifts and the motions when we need it. But that's a big part of us being an advantage-based offense. We got to be able to marry the consistent passing game that we've had here at Maryland with the ability to run the football, especially in the latter part of the season in the Big Ten once we get into the meat of our schedule.
Progress with the offensive line?
We've made a lot of progress. We have a group of guys that hadn't played a ton of football, but more importantly, they hadn't played together. And so a Monday is always more challenging than a Tuesday or Wednesday once we get lathered up and we have a little more time to get them back in the frame of mind to be able to handle all the different looks that we're seeing from Coach Monachino's defense.
Just to stick with the run game a little bit, you guys top 3 passing offense in the Big Ten the past 4 years. That's no problem.
Right.
But the run game, at this point, what are the key areas for your unit to have success?
Well, when you have a young quarterback or when you have a quarterback that doesn't have a lot of experience, I've always said that we want to de-emphasize the quarterback. So how do you do that? You do it by having a balanced attack. You do it by, as often as you can, keeping the quarterback out of obvious passing situations. So that's our goal. Our goal is to be balanced, not to be predictable. We still feel like we have elite playmakers on the perimeter in Octavian Smith, Jalil, Farooq, Caleb Webb, Ryan Manning. We got a litany of guys, that can come out
Dorian
and
Fleming.
Dorian Fleming, our tight ends. Exactly. Leon Halton, A.J. Szymanski. We have a group of guys on the perimeter, our skill guys, that are still probably on the upper echelon in the Big Ten.
Coach, you've been in the Big Ten before. I know you haven't been here a long time, but feelings about how it's changed since you were at Michigan?
Well, there's a lot more parity. We used to be a bit top-heavy. It was typically a 2 or 3 horse race, back when the divisions were split. Now you look at some of the teams that have shown up and won 10 games. Illinois, you got to buckle your chin strap to play. Iowa, that's always been the case. You got Nebraska, who's a physical bunch. But I just feel like, on any given year, the most physical team in this conference has a chance to come out on top.
Coach, fall camp isn't just about installing verbiage and X's and O's. You mentioned this team needing to win in November. There's a mental side to fall camp. Can you speak to that? What are the keys for your offensive unit to be ready to take that step and win some games in November?
Well, we wanted to change the mindset around here, and it's not just about the fireworks, the passing game, just spreading it out, throwing the ball around the yard, speed and space. We feel like the best playmakers in the building are the offensive linemen. They really do make the plays, right? And even in the case of the way that we practice, Coach Locks has always had a tough style of training camp, a very physical camp, very enduring training camp. But we feel like, the physicality that we're trying to instill in our offensive line is going to help our program. Because iron sharpens iron. Our defensive linemen are going to be tough, and they're going to become better as a result.
Awesome. Coach Pep Hamilton.
Great
to see you, man. Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to this fall.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
So much more to come on the show. We'll dive into the new defensive coordinator here in College Park. Talk to Ted Monachino about what he has planned for the Terps on that side of the ball. Plus, Mike Locksley been very open about some of the issues from a year ago. He'll tell us what he's doing to turn things back around as we roll on from College Park. Welcome back to Maryland as the Terps get ready for 2025. They do so with a new voice in front of the defensive meeting room. Ted Monachino taking over the D from Brian Williams, who moved on to Jacksonville State. Monachino has experience as a defensive coordinator in the NFL with the Colts. Also won a Super Bowl as a Ravens assistant. But he comes to College Park from North Carolina, where he served as the Tar Heels defensive line coach last season. And Ted Monachino, the new defensive coordinator, joining us now. Coach, this is your first chance to run a defense at the college level. You've done it at the NFL level, so for college football fans who might not be familiar with you, give us a sense for your defensive philosophy.
Well, I think that what we're trying to get done is we're trying to build as much variety into the system as we can and still keep it as simple as possible so our guys can play fast. There are a few different things in college football than in the NFL, but for the most part, we're able to do a lot of the things, the same things that we did before from a pressure standpoint, a coverage standpoint, a front standpoint. So I feel really good about where we are right now, and I think that we've got a chance to continue to develop over the next 15 days or so.
What are some of those differences in terms of how you run an NFL defense versus how you would run a college defense?
Well, I think that the width of the hashes is number one. So we've got to be a little bit more concerned about a little bit less grass into the boundary than what I was used to in the NFL. But I've been in college football now for a long time too, so I'm fairly used to it. The other thing is there are some rules from an unbalanced standpoint, some things that you didn't have to worry about in pro football that you have to have concerns with. And then with so many college football offenses operating out of the shotgun almost exclusively rather than having some under center. So we've got to be ready for all the quarterback run game and all the zone read and all the things people do out of the shotgun.
The trend is the rugby tackle last few years. How much live tackling do you think you need your defense to do before you play a game?
Well, I think that we've got a couple really good scrimmages planned for camp. I think that'll be enough for us. I think as long as we can put them in position to make those plays, Coach, I think we'll be fine. We'll work on it as much as we can in individual and in a controlled and safe setting, and then in those scrimmages we'll cut it loose.
You only have two starters back on this defense, and again, you're new too, so what's the integration challenge here in terms of getting everyone to understand your defense and then getting all these guys, many of whom didn't play together last year, on the same page?
Right. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed so far is all of our players, we're so young to begin with, so there's not a lot of bad habits and old language that we have to get rid of. So they've been able to start right from the very beginning and build it from the ground up. Integrating some new players into the system, they're all being integrated into a new system. So that part of it hasn't been difficult. I will tell you that we have a number of different skill sets that we're trying to figure out what roles we can use them in. And once we get that figured out, I think we'll have a really good picture of what our system is.
Early in camp, what would you say the strength of the defense is?
I think we're strong up front. I think we're strong in the middle. I think we've got a great group of depth players in the defensive line. I think our outside linebacker group has a different group of skills. I think we've got some long and lean and bendy edge players. I think we've got some big physical edge players. I think inside we've got quick and guys that can win on their own in the pass rush. We've also got guys that can hold up versus double teams. So I think that that's probably a strength of our defense right now, but I love the two veteran safeties and the two veteran linebackers.
Ted Monachino, pleasure to talk to you. Welcome to the Big Ten. Thanks for giving us some of your time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Terps coach Mike Locksley stops by next. Why he's not pulling any punches when it comes to his preseason message to his players. That is straight ahead from College Park. Mike Locksley had media days, pretty interesting, talking about losing the locker room last year over some of the tough decisions he had to make regarding player compensation. Here you see the actual sign in the Terps facility that he was talking about. Locksley did go on to say that the House settlement had made things easier, giving him the ability to focus on coaching more than external fundraising. And head coach Mike Locksley joining us now. Coach, you were vulnerable at Media Day, talking about the challenges last year that this new era brought on in terms of how you addressed your team and how you compensated your team, frankly. How did the players respond to how open you were about those challenges?
Yeah, this was the first time that you guys heard about it, but right after the season in January when they got back, I met with every player on our team as we do at the end of every year, and I was very honest with them about that and the things I needed to do better. We tend to evaluate the players quite a bit, but oftentimes I found myself, what things would you need from me? What things do you need more from me? And one of the things they said, Coach, when you're coaching on the offense and you're calling plays and you're dealing with the quarterbacks, we don't feel your energy. And a lot of these guys decided to come here because of me, and having the staff that I have put in place has allowed me to get back in that locker room.
You also said at Media Days you weren't sure what kind of team you had. I realize it's still early in camp. We're getting you early. But what have you learned about your team maybe that you didn't know in Las Vegas?
Well, I've always felt that we've always been athletic, but what we've needed to do is get bigger, get stronger inside the trenches on the O-line and the D-line, and some of the depth that we've been able to create on the defensive line, especially the edge rushers, which is an area that's been an Achilles heel for us, because for us to get pressure, we'd have to add bodies and add people to the blitz, and we feel like we've been able to bring in some really talented young pass rushers that'll allow us to maybe play a little man coverage, which fits us on the back end a little bit.
You also said at Media Days that if you had to, you'd move your desk in the locker room. Have you done that?
I have not had to do it, and it's a testament to the foundation that the team that we had, they've left. We have a strong foundation, and that's why my confidence is that we'll bounce back quicker. But I think the biggest thing is the communication and the anticipation of some of the issues a year ago I didn't see coming. Because we'd kind of gotten through the first year and a half of the NIL and that revenue share world. Well, some of the things we needed to anticipate, and as a parent, as you guys know, anticipation is half the battle.
How physical of a camp do you want to have this year?
You know what? We're trying to be as physical as we can while also being smart. We're not at the 120 that we typically have been. We're not at the 110, but we've got really good depth in our first 2.5 units. And what we've got to do, and this is what this camp has been about for me as the leader of it, is seeing which of these young players that we have to expedite their growth and their maturation, and making sure that we're getting them enough reps. We usually two-spot. Well, today you didn't see a lot of two-spotting because of depth. So we have to change, pivot, and adjust with where we are today. And, I really like the addition of some of the coaches that are used to these smaller teams. Pep and Ted, coming from the NFL, are used to not having the two-spotting, and we've been able to put together a way to install and get the players the work they need.
You were talking about those two new coordinators. I'm interested in both of them. Let's start with Pep Hamilton. Just the notion of you as an offensive coach, whenever you have a new coordinator, how much is his stuff, how much is your stuff, how much is an amalgamation?
Yeah, you know what I learned under Coach Saban, that it's always it's Maryland's offensive system. The new guys come in, they bring things that we don't have already in the system, and instead of 45 guys learning all new terminology, Pep has been a part of this program. He's been out for the last few years, and whenever he had some free time, he'd come up and spend time with us. So it wasn't as if we brought in a new guy that they weren't familiar with seeing around here. But with Pep's having been in the Big Ten at Michigan and some of the things he's done at Stanford, the way we've kind of tried to move offensively, we know we can throw the ball. The area we have to be able to establish the line of scrimmage in the run game, especially late in the year, and that's what Pep's expertise has been. So you blend those things with the schemes that we already have had in our system that have been successful, and I have a lot of confidence that's why I can pay more attention to the locker room and pay more attention to those players feeling me back involved and not being on one side of the ball.
What's made Ted Monachino the right guy to run your defense?
You know what? It's his simplicity while giving complex it looks complex, but the way he teaches, and you can tell he's been around some, he's from the Dean Pease tree of 3-4 systems, and the teaching progressions, the install progressions, the fundamentals that go along with them. Ted understands those things, the ability to create pass rush and teach those things have really, I see those first and foremost with the way he's installed things.
Coach, you've been a play caller for a long time, and now you've given play calling over to different offensive coordinators that you've had here. What level will you be with Pep as opposed to maybe some? Some, I'm guessing you were more helpful. Others you leave alone. What's the right blend there?
Yeah, I think Pep has been one of my closest friends in the coaching business. I've known Pep since he was at Howard University as a 28-year-old offensive coordinator. And so we've built a lot of systems together. He and I have, for the last 25 years, have talked ball a lot. We vacation a lot. I know him. He knows me and understands the system that I want to run. Having him here has allowed me to I can be another set of eyes for him. I'll be involved in the day-to-day game planning, helping as an extra coach. But he's going to call it, and I got all the confidence in the world that he'll get us in the right type of plays that fit what we have. The big thing for me is making sure that our playmakers touch the ball. And if we do that, I'll stay out of the way.
We didn't get to see Malik today out just for a period here, but give us a sense for kind of how that quarterback race was evolving. He was here in the spring. Yeah. He's been here for the beginning of fall camp as well. What do you see between Malik and Justin Martin, and when do you want to make a decision? Yeah, you know what, and everybody leaves off Christian Martin, and he's the kind of the unknown, but very talented like the rest of those guys, and to obviously not having Malik out there for extended periods. He actually took a couple periods today and some of the ball handling stuff, dealing with some lower body injuries, but he'll be fine. The competition is still on pace. Both he and Justin coming out of spring were kind of 1 and 2, but Christian made a nice run at the end of spring ball and left out of the spring game as the MVP. And we feel like with all three of these guys, they're very capable. Obviously, Malik comes in much heralded and as advertised as the times we've had opportunities to watch him and see him, he's as advertised. And so what we've got to do is get him healthy, got back on the field here, hopefully in the next couple of days, hopefully within the next week, hopefully, and get him back into the mix. But we feel very comfortable that all three of those guys are capable, and we just got to get into some of the scrimmage situations, which I think is practice 11 will be the first time we scrimmage, and we just finished 5. So we've got some time. We're still installing, still developing.
What's the most important quality the starting quarterback has to have?
They've got to score points. The guy that gives you the best chance. As long as every drive is ending in a kick, whether it's a punt, whether it's a field goal, if we end every drive with a kick at quarterback, we're doing some really good things. And today that didn't happen. I saw the ball, and that's a good thing because I saw the defense make a few plays out there today that has been very encouraging because I like the way the defense has come along. Mike Locksley, head coach of the Terps. Really appreciate it as always. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Dave. Coach. Thanks, Coach.
Plenty more to come here from College Park. What will this new Terps offense look like under coordinator Pep Hamilton? Jerry and Jake will break that down for us. Plus, we will speak to a couple of the expected stars of the Maryland defense. That's all ahead as our camp tour continues. While Maryland's record may have been disappointing last year, the Terps still made an impression on NFL scouts, as evidenced by the 6 players drafted into the league, 4th most of any Big Ten school. It's a list that includes Ty Felton, who set a school record for catches last year, along with fellow wideout Caden Prather. The rest of the pro attrition came on defense, with 4 guys from that side of the ball hearing their names called. Among those looking to pick up the slack, Daniel Wingate and Jalen Huskey, who are with Jake.
I want to talk to both of you guys about identity. It felt last year a word that came up consistently was aggression. Obviously, Coach Ted's background, aggressive. Jalen, we could start with you. How would you describe the identity of your defense?
We just are planning to be a gritty, violent, and consistent football team, especially on the defensive side. We plan to run around, get to the football, and be a violent team.
Daniel, with Ruben and Caleb both gone, this is your linebacker room. Really, this is your defense. How have you taken on a leadership role going into this season?
Just being more vocal, being able to bring the young guys with me, teaching them the things that Caleb and Ruben were able to teach me while they were here, and just, passing it along to the young guys.
Jalen, few new faces in the cornerback room particularly. I know the passing defense wants to take a stride. What are the key areas for your secondary to step up this year?
I think this year a big thing we're trying to work on is unity, becoming one unit. Whether that's corner, safeties, or nickels, we're all one unit. Like we're one big gang back there. Taking pride in every single snap and being violent and consistent every single day.
Also, the guys in front of you, the defensive line, a bunch of new starters. What are some of those names that we should keep an eye out for this fall?
You should keep an eye out for all of them. You got Cam Rice, Dylan Fontes, Neo Avery. We got Ian Thomas. We got a lot of guys there that are coming here to compete and play, change it around this year.
All right, guys. Appreciate you. Looking forward to watching this fall.
Appreciate you.
Thanks.
The challenge for Monachino improving this Maryland defense that took a step back last year after several seasons of improvement. The drop-off particularly noticeable in conference play, where the Terps' 36.1 points per game allowed were better than only Purdue. Maryland had a -8 turnover margin in Big Ten action. So into that picture, guys, we enter Ted Monachino running this defense first time as a defensive coordinator in college football. He's been a defensive coordinator in the NFL. Very few returning pieces, at least in terms of the starters to this defense. So to a certain extent, not starting over, but starting close to the beginning here. What did you see from this group, Jake?
Yeah, and it was a late hire as well. So this is like a crash course of installing verbiage. And I saw a defense, first off, just from pure body types, that's a Big Ten defense. The defensive line looked long, strong. Daniel Wingate, I'm blown away. He looks like an NFL linebacker. He's going to be the anchor there. And Jalen Huskey is the veteran in the back end. I think the value is every year I trust Maryland and Coach Locksley to have a dynamic passing attack. So that secondary, which was a weak point, is going to be challenged. Watching them in one-on-ones, it was fun to see them compete. The goal there, and really the key, Jerry, is the communication to make sure that they aren't allowing or giving up as many explosive plays.
Yeah, I think they're really pleased with the defense. I mean, it obviously needed to be rebuilt. I think the offensive emphasis on the run game will help them through camp. I think that's one of the downsides of last year's defense. But the coaches are fired up about the front. They love their safety support. They feel like they can be really multiple. It's somewhat of an NFL defense, but it's certainly something that'll give this team a complement to the offense.
It was interesting to hear Mike Locksley, too. I was talking to him before practice, and he was really raving about some of these young guys that they brought in. I mean, true freshman Sidney Stewart, we saw him make a couple plays out there today. There are a number of guys who he feels like will contribute right away. It can be a double-edged sword, but it certainly shows that the recruiting continues to be on an uptick, and they feel really good about the youth of this team.
Yeah, and there's a double-edged sword just generally in football, too. One thing that stood out to me last year is they wanted to be an aggressive defense under Coach Williams, but that aggression hurt them because they were undisciplined in the back end. Just watching practice today with Coach Ted, that's going to be an aggressive defense, all the different blitz packages. So the communication is key there. And I think having a guy like Daniel Wingate that's been in the program for a while, now this is his defense to be able to communicate with the front, making sure everybody's on the same page. That's the biggest risk with youth is it's okay to have talent, but you have to be disciplined in terms of your assignment.
When you study your defenses on cut-ups during the offseason, in other words, you just watch the same defense over and over again, then you go through your entire package, it's called a cut-up. You find that most of your big plays are missed assignments. It's usually 9 out of 10 will come down to missed assignments. Again, we come here every year. There's always talent here. There might be more defensive talent here this year than we've seen in recent years. So my guess is they're going to implement the new system, but I think they're going to try to keep it simple, especially the first 3 games before they get into conference play.
One thing that's really positive is, and again, you never know when you're watching practice because something that's positive for the defense is negative for the offense, but we saw them generate some turnovers, and that was a huge issue, particularly in Big Ten play last year. And, Locks kept saying, hey, offensive possessions, those have got to end with a kick. There were a number that didn't end today with a kick, but a lot of that had to do with playmakers on that D.
Yeah, and I mean, part of it, too, is Malik a guy they expect to be in the competition, potentially starting quarterback. So now you're all one down in the quarterback battle. So there's a big piece of that. But yes, that is a major key here. Turnover battle. That's one of the key analytic data points that leads to winning.
Jake, you're one down in the quarterback room with a young quarterback room. So it's a double-edged sword. There's some quarterbacks out there that are seeing a college rush in their faces that they haven't seen before.
Well, it'll be interesting to see whether the Terps can get this defense back going. It really felt like it had steadily improved for a couple of years, took a nosedive last year. No reason to think they can't get it back, turned in the right direction this season. Up next, we'll turn our attention back to the offense. Talk to two of the players who the Terps are hoping will step into a void left by the departure of their biggest weapon. Wide receivers, Jalil, Farooq, Octavian Smith joining me now. Guys, let's start with this. I think a lot of Terps fans are really interested in what this offense is going to look like this year with the new OC and Pep Hamilton. So, Jalil, I'll let you get the first word. Octavian, you can get the last word. Give us a sense of what we should expect from Maryland offensively.
Yeah, man. Offense is going to be super explosive this year. Pep Hamilton, he's one of them guys that put the ball in the air. We was number 3 in passing last year. We're excited. We putting the work day in and day out, so we're truly excited to play.
Octavian?
And to piggyback off that, you should expect the offense to be very explosive, like he said. With Pep being here, like you could tell, like how the atmosphere changed when he arrived, like the intensity changed and everything. And when it came to like the playbook and everything, you could tell like how very like pro style it is because of his background. Yeah. So like when it comes to like the different types of plays, like it's very like pro style. So. Yeah. Like being in this offensive system, you'll be ready for the next level for sure.
Definitely learning a lot of ball.
Yeah.
Locks has such a great tradition of really good wide receivers here. We saw it as recently as last year, but again, really the entire time he's been here, he's developed NFL caliber wide receivers. How important was that to you, Jalil, when you were looking for somewhere to go, and Octavian with you when you were recruiting?
Truly a big decision for me. Definitely them being number 3 in passing last year. I know they throwing the ball in the air and they always produce receivers, so it was really a no-brainer for me to come back home.
And for me, honestly, I committed here coming out of high school. I was actually committed here to play DB at first, but Coach Locks convinced me to play offense. And, since then, I haven't regretted the decision at all because I like scoring touchdowns. And like he said, like Coach Locks, he's the type of guy he is. He's going to make sure he gets his players the ball. And he comes from an offensive type of mindset as a coach. So it was a no-brainer for me as well.
Octavian, I want to ask you a little bit. Coach Locks was really open at media days talking about that things weren't great in the locker room last year. He put a lot of that on himself, or really all of it on himself to a certain extent. What's different this year? Give people a sense of how this locker room is functioning as a group.
Definitely, I say what's different this year is, you can't do the same thing over and over again. Like at some point, like there's a point in time where you need change. And that's something that we've been talking about as a whole team, like staff, players, and everybody included. And we have like this word that you'll hear Coach Locks preach about, being elevate. And coming this season, like that's something that we needed to do in order to not underachieve like we did last year. So like when it comes to locker room, like leadership council, like me and Jalil are on, such as like Jalen, Huskey, and Daniel Wingate is on as well. We have he's given the opportunity to us to make sure that. Because, the coaches are upstairs in the office and everything. Like, we're the ones that are around each other every day. So, just building that brotherhood and making sure that, no man's greater than the other. Because, when we step foot into the building, we're all there to pay the same price. And that's, to go out there and win games. So, no man's bigger than the other. So, we're here to uplift each other, if anything, as opposed to, tear each other down. Because when we face adversity, when times get rough, we're going to have to lean on each other and be able to fall back on one another.
Describe the tightness of this group. You obviously have another team to compare it to, so give us a sense of
Yeah, man, to piggyback basically what he's saying, the leaders are leading the team. The coaches can do so much. They can tell us what to do, but the leaders on this team, we have to emphasize over and over the little details, focusing on that. And we spend time outside of football together. A lot of stuff that the coaches don't tell us to do, we do on our own. So us building that chemistry on and off the field is going to translate on the field.
Hey, we didn't get to see Malik Washington out here today, but I'm interested, Octavian, in your point of view. And Jalil, you can speak to this too, being from here, but you obviously weren't recruited here initially. Octavian, you were. So as someone who's highly recruited in this area, who decides to come to Maryland, what would your advice be for Malik in terms of all of the focus and the scrutiny that he's going to get?
Definitely, my advice to Malik would be, don't pay attention to like what people are saying outside of this. At the end of the day, like Malik knows who he is, and us being around him, we know who he is as well. Getting to know him and learn him as an individual, not just a player. So my advice to him would just be, come out and just be yourself. Really, you don't have to do nothing extra. You don't have to do nothing spectacular. Just go out there, beat Malik every day. Like we tell each other all the time, like when things get rough, like we face adversity in practice, like guys, just go out there, have fun. We've been doing this all our lives. Don't make it something more than what it needs to be. So I say, to me, Malik, just take it day by day, enjoy the process, because it will go by fast.
Give us a scouting report on the quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks, man, I love all of them guys, man. They all compete continuously in fall camp. It's been tremendous to see them guys elevate, and really just been excited to be out there to play with them, and just waiting to see who elevates to take the role to be the quarterback one.
Jalil, Farooq, Octavian Smith. Thanks, guys. Have a great year.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Well, the Terps are counting on some new faces, not just Farooq, who was outstanding for a couple of years at Oklahoma, but also Caleb Webb, who had 22 grabs last season at Tennessee, plus a highly touted in-state freshman, Zymir Smith, who chose the Terps over offers from Alabama and Penn State. They also really like tight end Dorian Fleming, who caught nearly 50 passes a season ago at Georgia State. As we break down this offense, fellas, again, it's important to note that we didn't see the player who may very well end up being the starting quarterback for this team in Malik Washington. That said, they were not as good offensively last year as they had been in previous years. This is the forte for Mike Locksley. It's the side of the ball where he has made his reputation. What did you think of what you saw today?
Yeah, before even talking about the quarterback, the success of this offense, the ceiling and the floor is going to be determined from their offensive line. That was a major issue. Billy Edwards was getting hit as much as anyone in the Big Ten last year. They were unable to run the ball. The first thing that stood out to me was just the size and the strength of the Maryland offensive line, and including the depth. Just talking to the coaches, they feel much more comfortable about the offensive line at this point than where they were last year. And some of the shifts and motions, Coach, that Pep uses, I think that's key, because it forces the defense to have to communicate. It gets them on their heels. All of a sudden, some of those run game schemes should start to pop.
This is a small roster. This is 103 players that came to camp. They're allowed 120 in the offensive line. I agree with you, Jake. I think they can really bend. They looked like they were a good group, but today there was only 13 of them. I mean, they weren't even 3 deep today. And Coach Locksley mentioned when we were talking with him that they usually, when they do a team drill, they have 2 team drills going on. They only had 1 going on. But I think the offense is talented. I think they can bend, but they're not very deep. They're going to have to stay healthy.
Feels like wide receiver, as always, is going to be a strength. I mean, Ty Felton was fabulous, as we know, last year. Turned in really one of the great wide receiver seasons in Maryland history. But it seems to me, based on what they did in the portal, based on some of the young guys who have gotten older and more mature, that feels like a group, to say it won't skip a beat losing Ty Felton, I'm not sure if that's true, but it could still really be a strength of the offense.
It'll be a strength of the offense, and one of the fun things is getting to tour other Big Ten teams. Is I get the sense that this is going to be a top tier, top half at a minimum wide receiver room. It's just steady and consistent here under Coach Locks and at Maryland, and they have a number of different body types too. Guys that look like veterans in terms of understanding how to separate. I even like some of the guys in the tight end room, including Dorian Fleming, the U move type tight end. I think he's going to have a chance to have a Corey Dyches type impact from a few years ago.
Yeah, I think the decision is you win 1 conference game last year because you couldn't run the ball very well. They can throw it. They've got talented receivers. They're going to have a young quarterback regardless of who wins that. If they don't run the ball in conference play, they're going to struggle like they struggled last year. I mean, the way you guys have defined the wide receiver room, I absolutely agree. But it produced 1 win. They've got to be able to run the football.
And in November. I mean, that's the storyline here, too, is, can they finish seasons? Can they start to win in November? When you're so pass-heavy in the Big Ten, what do we know? The weather starts to become a major factor late in the season. So, some of these passing attacks are more of a finesse-based attack. If you can rely on your trenches and your running backs, and, last year they weren't even able to get into Big 12 personnel, meaning bringing in an extra offensive line. They were in Big 13 personnel. They had 6 or 7 offensive linemen on the field at a number of times during their team drills today.
Yeah, and young quarterback, right? It's going to be a young quarterback. So to go into the season relying on the pass game, and they're not trying to do that. I'm just saying, I'm trying to emphasize installing a new defense, you better have a run game. You got a young quarterback.
Well, it feels like Nolan Ray will be the lead back. I mean, how do you guys feel about what we saw at running back?
Well, I've covering this team, calling games for a few years now. I mean, there's been whispers that every single year they say, hey, we think this guy's going to be special. With Roman Hemby leaving, I mean, this is his running back room, and they feel really excited about him. Just in the flashes and the opportunities, as he's gotten more opportunities year over year, you can see the potential and the excitement. To me, he's a complete back, and I think he's going to be involved in the passing game as well, Coach.
Yeah, when Hemby leaves, the depth gets hurt, obviously, and so I'm not sure how deep they are there. Again, the offensive line, a lot of pressure on the offensive line to keep this thing going.
We haven't talked a ton about quarterback play, and part of that is because we didn't get to see Malik Washington, but of the guys that we did see today, Justin Martin and Christian Martin, where do you think they are if one of those guys starts or is a key backup?
That's the ultimate question. I think they're similar body types. So I think that's maybe one of the concerns is, hey, if you have three different quarterbacks competing, you might need to run three different offenses. I don't get the sense. I think that each guy is tailor-made to run and operate the offense. You know, it's camp, some good, some bad. We mentioned the turnovers earlier. You know, if you can eliminate some of those turnovers, I would feel different about how I evaluated them today.
Yeah, I think Justin Martin, you know, there were times out there I said, wow, and then there's other times I said, oh, you know, why did he do that? Pretty typical of a young quarterback. And again, you know, if he's got a run game, that's certainly going to help him. They've got 3 non-conference games to start, 3 winnable games to start. That's a good place for a quarterback. They shouldn't have to rely on outstanding quarterback play to get off to a fast start.
As a team that was in the top half of the Big Ten last year in total offense, the issue is they were in the bottom half of the Big Ten in scoring offense. Can you turn those drives into points? I will say this, if it ends up as a field goal attempt, they're in good hands. O'Hare has a massive leg. He was fun to watch today, and I know Mike Locksley feels like he was a real steal for them, a guy who came over in the portal. The dramatic conclusion of our show next. Final thoughts on our visit with the Terps. Plus, we'll take a look at the schedule for Mike Locksley's crew as we wrap things up from College Park. Wrapping things up from College Park, the Terps less than a month away from kicking off what will be their 12th season in the Big Ten. Begins over at CQ Stadium on August 30th against Florida Atlantic. As we look at Maryland's schedule, you see that game will be on the Big Ten Network, as will the matchup here the following week against Northern Illinois. Conference play kicks off September 20th in Madison. After years of having to face Penn State and Ohio State every year in the Big Ten East, Maryland plays neither of those two this year. They also miss Oregon, so Indiana, the only playoff team from a season ago, on the slate this year. So guys, schedule does cooperate. We got a chance to evaluate this team here today. Final thoughts on our way out, Coach.
Well, there's always talent here, and it's here still. Really good practice. It's always been good practicing here. Hard to tell without the starting quarterback what kind of team any team would be. Defense looks like it's going to be multiple. Looks like they can run. On offense, we've talked about this a lot already. They've got to be able to run the ball and support a rookie quarterback and somehow try to get the ball to their talented wide receivers.
Yeah, I do think that initial schedule, the out-of-conference schedule, is the key here because I seeing practice, I see why these coaches are excited about some of their young talent, some of the new faces that will be introduced to this fall. It all comes together. You're introducing 3 new coordinators. Offensive and defensive coordinator are veteran coaches, and I felt like watching practice, that showed up today in terms of their coaching points and listening to them. Completely agree with you, Coach. Steady passing game. No issue there. Can they run the ball, and can this defense start to limit some of their mistakes?
And, Jerry, you mentioned the talent, and I just think it is worth repeating. First of all, that they had 3 straight really good years before last year, and I think we can kind of be prisoners of the moment, right? And that talent has turned into wins here under Mike Locksley in a number of seasons. It just didn't happen last year. I think it's also worth noting they have literally the #1 recruit in the country for 2026 committed here as well. So you think about the accumulation of good young players. This year feels like a little bit of a bridge year. You've got to prove that you're better than you were a year ago, but also the young players who they've accumulated in this program, the arrow points up in a lot of ways, Jake.
that's the foundation of any team is talent, being able to recruit well. That hasn't been an issue here. It's just the timing of it too. Depth is the other factor of this. Is especially when you look at the late season issues that Maryland's had. It's okay. There's talent, but as the season goes, injuries start to pile up, and then issues start to reveal themselves. That's what these next few weeks are about, is developing that depth, particularly in the key areas like offensive line.
Right, but let's go back to the talent. So it's FAU, NIU, Townsend in the first 3 games. How complicated?
Well, the non-conference is never an issue. They win all their non-conference games. They've done it 4 years in a row.
It's an issue what kind of confidence you come out of those 3. And it's an issue, do you have the locker room? Mike Locksley obviously has said he lost the locker room. After those first 3, he should have the locker room. He has more talent than those first 3. Okay, so let's go to conference games. He hasn't won the matchup conference games either.
Right.
If you look at last year, he won 1 conference game. So you're 3-0 coming out of non-conference, and then you look at your matchup conference games. Those are the games you have to win. That's how they were 8-4, 8-5, and 8-5 the previous 2 years. They won the matchup conference games as well as an easy non-conference schedule. They need to get back to that. I maintain it's not X's and O's. It's not strategy. It's team morale. It's toughness. It's just playing like they played when they were winning 8 games a year.
It feels like they've addressed certainly the morale issue head on, as Mike Locksley talked about with us, and we'll see whether or not it registers here this year. But a really important season, I would say, here for Maryland as they try to get things back on track. We are headed to State College next. We will check in on the Penn State Nittany Lions, a team that was picked in the unofficial preseason poll to win the Big Ten this year, one that has been chosen by some to win the national championship. We will check out Penn State coming up tomorrow. Want to thank everyone here at Maryland for a great day. Thanks to Dustin Sevanovic and his entire SID staff. Always a great stop here in College Park. Thanks so much for watching our camp tour here on the Big Ten Network. We will see you tomorrow from State College.